Really glad to be here. I usually have a rule, I try not to swear before lunch, but I may use a four-letter word a couple of times, so excuse me for that, and I think it's really relevant. I started my first business, which is what I'm going to talk about today, in 2004, and I was sitting in Dr. Welsh's class. I was working for a software startup called Click Commerce here in Chicago at the time, and really watching a successful startup from the inside and really learning. And I thought, I got an idea. I'm going to start a business. And I did that in Dr. Welch's class, wrote a business plan, quit my perfectly acceptable day job, sold all my stuff, moved into a tiny apartment, started a business. And we had some success. The first year we had revenue. We did about $150,000. The second year we did a little over $1 million. The third year we did $3 million. By the end of the fourth year we were at $4 million, and I was feeling great. In October 2007, the phone rang, and it was my biggest customer, and they said, "We really like what you're doing, but we've kind of figured out what you're doing, and we'd like to do it ourselves, so we're done working with you." The next week, I got another phone call. It was my second biggest customer, and they said, "Things are kind of tough financially, and we're really not thinking we're going to renew your contract next year." In 2 weeks, we went from about a $4 million run rate to a $1 million run rate. And it felt like overnight. And that, my friends, is an oh shit moment. You sit there, and I just remember thinking, how did this happen to me? I mean, I thought I knew what I was doing. I thought we were pretty good at what we did. I thought our customers liked us. And now I'm kind of screwed. What happened? And so today I'm going to talk about a couple of those moments that I believe were fully preventable with just a little bit of thought and foresight. And I'm going to share some of that with you guys today. But before I do, I've got the 24-timer countdown here. And Rachel told me there's a metal plate under this stage. I have some notes, or else who knows what we'll talk about, so bear with me. There are 27 million businesses in the United States. And of those 27 million businesses, there are about 27,000 of them that have more than 500 employees. So put another way, 99.9% of all businesses in the United States have fewer than 500 employees. And you think about that, that's pretty amazing. That's pretty much all of them, right? All of them. And so I'll put it another way. 97% of all businesses in the United States have revenues of less than $1 million. So if you're sitting here today and you've got a business and you've broken $1 million, I want you to feel really good about that because you're in the top 3% of all businesses in the country. And for those of you who aspire to that and you get there, feel really good about it. But the problem is you get this inferiority complex when you're a first-time entrepreneur and you read Inc. magazine and you see the Inc. 500 and how I grew my business by 90,000% in 4 years. And you go, God, what am I doing wrong? I thought I was doing pretty good with 30%. This guy grew his business 90,000% in 3 years. Well, I'm here to tell you that stuff doesn't really matter. What really matters is getting a couple of things right. So I want to talk about something that the founder of EO, Vern Harnish, likes to talk about, and that's really 4 stages of breakthroughs. And I'm going to focus on the first 2. I never made it to the third one with my first business. I'm going to talk about the first 2. So the first breakthrough stage is that $1 million mark. And the most important thing I've found getting to $1 million, the one thing I think an entrepreneur should care most about is revenue. I mean, from zero, that first dollar to $1 million, unless you come from immense wealth or fortunate enough to have massive financing, most of us, you just kind of bootstrap it. So that first sale, usually you lose money on it. I mean, I'd like to say most companies probably lose money on their first sale, especially a service business like mine. You break even. You keep selling. You're breaking even. You're selling. You're making maybe some money on some deals, but not some on others. You hit $1 million, And what happens? You want to grow. I hit $1 million. I feel great. I'm going to keep doing this. You keep pushing through. So you break through that first one with sales, and then the second stage hits. And that second stage, I think, is somewhere between $1 and $10 million in revenue. I got stuck right in the middle of that. And the breakthrough there, and the most important thing there, is watching your gross margin. How much money do you have left over after you do what you do to finance the growth of your business? I did not have nearly enough of that stuff. That gross margin thing was a little low. And I'll tell you why. It's because I was so focused on selling and growing and getting my business on the Inc. 500 and being in that club and all of those things I thought were important that I didn't focus on delivering service as profitably as I could have. And so I hit, halfway through that cycle, $3 or $4 million, I was spending all of my time managing my customers that I had and not enough time selling more stuff and figuring out how to deliver more profitably. And that's how I got stuck, and I'll share some of that with you. So those first two categories are where I'll focus. The third, which, the next two are in the good problems to have category. You break through 10, from 10 to 50, you're focused on getting cash to grow your business, right? You figured out how to sell. You've got a repeatable process. You're making enough money on every transaction or deal. Okay, now how do I really grow this thing? Do I bring in money? Do I self-finance it? What do I do? And then over 50 is where most entrepreneurs like me say, I don't want to do this anymore. That's because the core focus of a company over $50 million is forecasting. Can I deliver for my investors? Can I tell them 6 months from now to a penny how much money I'm going to make for them? That is a completely different DNA than most entrepreneurs sitting in this room, which is why so few ever run the companies that they founded past $50 million. So the last two, that's for another presentation. I'm going to focus on the first two today. So, okay, everybody, close your eyes. I'm going to ask you a question, okay? How many of you here today, I mean it, close your eyes, I'm serious. How many of you started your business because you were good at doing something? Okay, I was trying to be secret ballot, but some of you peeked. I see a lot of hands. That was me. I was pretty good at recruiting. So when I was sitting trying to write a business plan in Dr. Welsh's class, I thought, well, I'll do recruiting. I'm good at it. Being good at doing something is not the same as being good at growing a business. They are completely different skill sets. And the mistake I made was that I spent way too much time doing what I was good at and too few time learning what I should be good at doing, which is figuring out how to manage the growth of my business. I spent 2 years too long doing that, and it hurt me in the end. So there's an aha moment you can write in your book for me. I wasn't focused on the right stuff early on. So I think the reason for that is because I never really sat down at the front end and figured out why I was going into business. I just knew I wanted to be in business. I knew we'd be pretty good at it. I knew we'd get customers. I knew we'd grow. What I didn't know was why I was about to do this. And I had a business partner. He didn't really know why he was doing it either. But when we got to $3.5–4 million in revenue, what we both learned about one another was that our reasons for doing it were very, very different. I wanted to grow my business. Biggest business I could possibly grow. I was willing to forego current income and just re-roll it and just grow and grow and grow. He had decided the minute we could take $150,000 out of the business, we're done. Let's just be safe. Okay, that was a very big problem. So when we started making money, I wanted to roll it and grow. He wanted to take it out. Big, big conflict, and we had to settle that. And we ultimately did. And it ended up with me running the business. We had that conversation, and that was a tough one. We could have avoided it by having that conversation on day 0. Why do you want to do this? 7 years from now, Do you still want to be doing this? Do you want to do this the rest of your life? Do you want to take investors? They're going to want their money back. Are you good with someone else running the business at some point? These are the questions that I should have asked, and I just really didn't. The one thing we did do pretty well was sell stuff. So we had some success in selling, but here's another aha moment for me. I never systematized, if that's a word, how I sold. I did a pretty good job of earning customers' trust and putting together deals and selling them. But what I didn't do very well was teach other people how to do that the way I wanted to have it done. And so when we got to the point where we were servicing our customers, I wasn't selling, and because I was the only person in the business who was really selling the way we needed to be selling, we'd win a deal, lose a deal, win a deal, lose a deal. Anybody been in that cycle? Win a deal, lose a deal. It was only as good as the next customer coming in the door. Huge mistake. Huge mistake. And so the other thing I realized is that anybody first time starting a service business from 2003 to 2007, you know what, guys? It just wasn't that hard to get business. I mean, admit it. It just wasn't that hard. It was hard, but it wasn't this hard, right? 2005, you could scoop out, if you were good at what you did, you could go scoop up some business and build a couple $1 million company in a couple of years and do pretty well. Those days are gone, and I think gone for a long time. And I think ultimately that's a good thing. I think that means we have to know why we're doing what we're doing. We have to understand why customers are buying what we're selling. We have to know that stuff. We have to decide how we're going to go through the filtering process of an interested person to a person writing you checks. I didn't know any of that stuff. And it hurt, right? That was the reason I didn't break through. One of many. Okay. So in January of 2007, we just come off a record year and done about $3 million in revenue. We're not talking huge company stuff, but we were pretty proud of it. And about the third quarter of 2007, on our way to getting those 2 phone calls, we started noticing something. Our customers started paying us just a little bit later. Just a little bit. A week, a couple weeks, a month. They've always paid us. A little bit later, little did we know we were on our way to the biggest financial calamity in modern U.S. history. The signs were there. Things just started slipping a little bit. Well, we were running about a $350,000 a month revenue run rate. And I woke up one morning and my AR it said $1.001 million in my accounts receivable. And I thought, oh my God. Then my customers called and canceled their deals. Those 2 people owed me about $1 million. So now, no longer did they not want my service, they owed me money and had no incentive to pay me in a timely manner because I didn't do anything for them anymore. That was an oh shit moment. Well, could you pay me before you throw me out the door, at least? So we worked through that. It was painful, and it took about 9 months. In the course of that time, we started having conversations with our bank, and they said, gee, your receivables are pretty high. And then the financial crisis hit, and the bank said, we're really not interested in loaning money to small businesses anymore. So they cut it off. Cut us off completely for more credit. Now, we were a receivables-based line of credit business. We needed to float payroll at customer sites and do all that stuff. And so the bank cut off our line of credit. That was an oh shit moment. And I sit there after that phone call and I think, okay, what business can I run with no line of credit? What did that business look like? I'll tell you. That business had no receivables because I needed to get paid up front. That business had a short sales cycle because I couldn't afford to sell for 9 months before I got deals like I used to. That business required as little human capital as possible because I needed to really lean down. We went from 30 plus to about 6 employees. I needed to figure all that stuff out. I'm happy to say we did. We scrambled. And with a couple of people who stuck with it and believed in us getting through, we got through it. We salvaged a business that was profitable, that had no receivables, and served a customer need. I'm pretty proud of that. It was extremely painful, and I never want to go through that process again. And so a couple of things. You realize there are 4 things you can do as a business owner. You can charge more, you can do it for less, you can collect faster, or you can pay your vendors slower. Number 4, that's the bad way to do it, right? You want to pay your vendors on time. Charging more is hard, so we really focused on 2 things, doing it for less and collecting faster. And so when I started my next business, my current business, I wanted a model with no receivables, right? Pay up front, very little human delivery, and that really, really scratched an itch in the market, and I think we're doing that now. So, so far so good on that lesson learned. Okay. I've got a couple of minutes left. Let's close our eyes again. One more time. Okay. Think about in your business, who is the one person that you know you should walk in this morning and let them go? Who's that person? I see a lot of grimaces. You know it. Okay, you can open your eyes. If you've got employees, you know the second you've made a bad hiring decision. You know who that person is. And as Jim Collins, who wrote Good to Great, likes to say, it is unfair to both you, the owner, and the employee who's not struggling for you, the owner, to do nothing about that. Because you're keeping somebody from being successful somewhere else by not having the guts to tell them that it's not working out. The biggest mistake I've made and the biggest breakthrough that I've had in the last 5 years in my first business was having the guts to admit I made a bad hiring decision and to talk to somebody about it in an open and honest way and just take care of it as soon as I could. Because it's your money, your payroll, and it's their life. And that's arguably way more important than your lack of courage in confronting the issue. Biggest aha moment for me. That was a big one. Okay, so wrapping up, my final breakthrough and what I want to leave you with. Nobody can tell you when you're done being an entrepreneur. Nobody can tell you that. Only you have the power to decide when it's time to quit, if that's what you decide. The morning you wake up and decide to stop is the day you're done. Until that day, do not let anybody tell you that you're not cut out for it or that you're going to fail. You can decide that. Thank you very much.